Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. 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 No matter what people want you.
Hi, Priscilla. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Thank you. Welcome to 3 Degrees of Love Divination. Yes, as everybody knows, I'm Alana, and this is Priscilla from A Life.
Full of simplicity. Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you.
My username is a mouthful. Yes, I'm from A Life Full of Simplicity. I own that YouTube channel plus the Instagram. So
Yes, and so of course I've been watching you for quite some time, and I definitely love your videos, your walkthroughs, and I've watched you grow, and I feel like a happy child and a proud mother all at the same time doing as I watch you progress in your channel. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just something about your presence is very soothing and comforting, and even your cozy Sundays that you do. It is called Cozy Sundays, right?
yeah, Cozy Tarot Sundays.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, just something about it. It's very you the way you present yourself is very therapeutic and stuff like that. And so you're definitely a joy to watch. And and just even some of the milestones and successes that you've recently been able to accomplish along the way, I'm just like, yay. And I'm so proud for you, and and so it's awesome. But even as I've been following you, and then we've gotten to know each other on a more personal level and stuff like that, and and then recently learning, like I'm also learning, which is fun as I'm diving into further in my spirituality and stuff like that. It's like there's a reason why I've gravitated towards you, and even before I knew exactly why, or if there was a reason, I just it just was like that. And and then to more so to my sort of immediate knowledge was that I learned haphazardly, I guess, if you will, that you have a background in psychology.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. So, and then of course, so learning that, and I come from a very social working background, all like my knees were like, what? Like my minions were like, hold on, a piece of knowledge. What? She's we can do a lot of good things there. We can connect, and we can talk about all kinds of stuff. So like, and that's sort of what led to, us doing this together today. My tarot journey and sort of my, origin story, sort of the way it haphazardly sort of fell into place. Not to say there weren't inklings, throughout my life, but like my commitment to actually, fully diving into tarot, came more recently, right? So, but as I've been using that, and and how I've been applying that to my life and things that I've dealt with, coming from very, like I said, very social worky background, mental health and all of that stuff, and sort of bridging that connection. The more I dive in, the more I've been learning about how everything all connects to psychology and stuff like that. And and even though I've sort of bridged off and went on the path of social work, it's really nice to come across somebody who actually has the knowledge, the experience, that of that higher education, if you will, of specifically psychology, and can speak to that and how it connects to tarot, to break the stigmas, if you will, and see the true benefits of how tarot can help us on an individual basis to bring harmony back to ourselves, our minds, and overall our health,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the connectivity back to, you know, our, like, each other and the community, because I feel like we've really disconnected. And the way that we are now with the mental health crisis and all of that stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's going on around us,
Yeah.
I feel like it's really, this work is very, very important. Not, you know, and it's not just from even or a religious sort of, you know, spiritual thing, but even just health wise, right? So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so please, you know, like, without further ado, like, I want to hear you start us off with the, you know, with the historical roots of psychology and how that sort of merges with tarot based on
Mm-hmm.
what you know and your education. So please.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to like the psychology in regards to like shadow work, because shadow work has definitely been like a huge, it's gotten really popular, right? In like the tarot community, and with in regards to like witchcraft and things like that, shadow work has become like a huge thing, right? And we talk about it all the time. And a lot of people use tarot in regards to doing shadow work for themselves. So yes, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I also have a bachelor's degree in ancient history, archaeology, and I also have a degree in social service. So social service is actually under social work. So yes, I do. That's what I have. That's my
Okay, so
background.
now my student cap is like all ready, like, to like
Yeah.
sit and just listen.
So in regards to like psychology and like shadow work actually came from Carl Jung. So Carl Jung was a psychologist. He's the one who coined the terminology of like the shadow self and things like that. And that's where shadow work really comes from. But before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about Freud. Now, Freud was a psychologist, very well known in the psychology realm. We learn about him a lot, though many of his philosophies have been discredited and are not really used in modern psychology because they're rather outdated. A lot of the notions that he's talked about, though he was actually the mentor of Carl Jung. So Carl Jung actually learned a lot of things from Freud specifically. So I did want to touch upon one ideology or philosophy that Freud created, which is like the iceberg model. It's the iceberg model of the self. So really what that is like, you picture an iceberg and you have one part of the iceberg showing at the top, like, and then you have the rest of the iceberg showing underneath the water. Now, what's underneath the water is supposed to represent your unconscious. It's supposed to represent the unconscious areas that you don't really get to. They're the areas where you can't really get to because you're not really in tune with that part of yourself. Above the water is your conscious levels. So that's everything that's within your conscious mind that is there, it's available. You can access it really easily. He derived three ideologies in that model, which is the id, the ego, and the superego. Now, the
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry to cut you.
no,
Sorry, what was the first one?
it was the id,
Yep.
and
So,
then
okay, so like
ego, superego.
identification, right? Like your
Uh,
identity.
so, so id, yeah, I don't know if it represents specifically identity, but it specifically represents your unconscious level. So that's where your desires, your needs, your wants are. They're the unconscious level of yourself that is the example I like to give when explaining it is like your inner child and your wants. So I want this, I need this, this is what I want. That's where that comes from. It comes from the id. So like your inner desires, your inner wants, and things like that. So think of it as a child who's throwing a tantrum because he wants something off the shelf, and mommy's like, no, you can't have that. And then kind of thing, throwing a tantrum. So that's the id, pretty much. Then you have the super ego, which would be at the top of the iceberg. It would be in your conscious level. Your super ego, think of it as your parent. It's the one that really tells you no. it's what I consider like the parental figure of the self, where they're like, no, you can't have that. It's not allowed, kind of thing. The ego is supposed to be in the middle of the two. It's supposed to be the one that tries to bring the id and the superego together and allows it to have balance. So that's the area where it's like, let's compromise. The id wants this, you say no. Where can we compromise to find a better solution where both sides are happy? For me, I consider the id the inner child. I consider the your mother figure. So in shadow work,
You are okay. There we go.
internet's having a fit.
That's
So,
okay. So
yeah, it's like your parental figure, the superego, and then your ego is yourself. It's your actual self. It's in the middle of the two.
okay.
Because Carl Jung actually has his own philosophy about the self called the model of the psyche, which includes the unconscious and things like that. And his model is a bit different because it brings in persona, ego, shadow, anima, and animus, which are Latin. So anima is the soul, I believe, and animus is the I have it here written. Give me a second. Anima is the soul and animus is the spirit. And these are both in the unconscious. They're located in the unconscious, which is where the shadow is located. So I believe, me specifically, this is my opinion, I believe that he took aspects of Freud's philosophy and created his own philosophy to do with the shadow self. And the shadow self is really, it's supposed to represent the id, but it's your unconscious level where your deepest and darkest self resides. So it's what you would find in your unconscious. What lives here a lot of the time is trauma, things that have happened to you, that your conscious level can't really process, and pushes it to the unconscious level. So that's your shadow side. The anima and the animus are like your soul and spirit that reside in the unconscious level, because no one really, like, if you think about it, you can't really tap into that in the conscious level. It's always going to be in the unconscious in regards to your own spirit and your own soul and whatnot. And your persona and your ego are at the conscious level. So these are what you bring forward. So your persona, your ego, and things like that. And a lot of the time, what happens is things from the unconscious seep, like things from the shadow, seep into your conscious level, into your persona, and into your ego. So that's really where that comes from in that sense. There was something else that Carl Jung developed as well. It was like the series of archetypes, and that he put together and talks about. There's 12 archetypes that he developed, and they are like separated into different quadrants. So the archetypes that he developed are ruler, creator and artist, sage, innocent, explorer, rebel, hero, wizard, jester, everyman, and caregiver. Now I'm going to send you like a bunch of links that you can put in the description box for people to like look at and things like that on this subject, since I'm not sharing like a screen or anything like that. But
Yes,
he divides
absolutely.
yeah, so he divides like these archetypes into quadrants in regards to provide structure, a spiritual journey, connects to others, and leaves a mark on other people. And for me, when it comes to shadow work, there's so many archetypes that you can look at and you can work through in regards to shadow work, right? And I personally call this archetypal shadow work. So doing inner child work, for example, that's a type of archetype. To me, that links to the innocent archetype usually being a child. So that to me is inner child work. And then you have, let's say, parental shadow work. So like the mother wound, for example, that's become a really popular one. The opposite to the mother wound in regards to the father is the father complex. These are working in terms of working through traumas that you have with specifically with parents. This would be under the caregiver archetype that Carl Jung has, and caregiver being someone who's supposed to care for a child, right? So there's those things, and then there's a bunch of other archetypes like having a hero complex, for example, and maybe working through mundane things that have happened. So that could be like the everyday man, for example. In terms of like trauma and whatnot, I'm trying to think what would be. I guess depending on the type of trauma, you could do the wizard, which is also known as the magician. That could be like the power complex. If it's specifically trauma that has to do with intimacy or someone that you used to be in a relationship with, like relationship abuse and things like that, that could be the lover. That could be the lover archetype in terms of intimacy, and things like that. So these are like different archetypes, and he actually developed these archetypes from the archetypes of tarot. So I don't know if anyone knew this, but actual Carl Jung actually used tarot within his own practice. So he actually used tarot within his own therapy sessions as well that he gave, and with clients and things like that. And he developed these archetypes from the major arcana. And that's how it goes into tarot, because he wasn't, I guess he was fine with using like occult type things in his philosophies and practices, which makes sense because I believe he was part of one of the, I don't know which one. He was part of one of those kind of.
You froze. He was part of what?
Oh, sorry. My internet really doesn't love me today.
That's okay.
He was part he was part of, I think he was part of one of those occult groups. I'm not sure if it was the
Mercury
Golden
retrograde, so, but yeah.
Right. Thank you. I know. Mercury anyway.
But yeah, so sorry, you were saying
I think he was part
of...
I think he was part of the Golden Dawn. He's part of one of those occult groups. I'm not sure if it was the Golden Dawn or if it was one of the other ones, but he was a part of one of the other ones.
Okay, but even still, just to touch on some of the things that you were saying, like the fact that you're saying he as a psychologist, he was basing a lot of his stuff off of esoteric teachings and things like that, which go further back than even his own existence, right? Like that's right. So that's just another way of sort of understanding that how old tarot is, and sort of breaking that stigma that has plagued, it from the practice itself, and has made it's so disconnected the way that it has, and allowed it to have this bad name that follows it, right? Because it is a powerful tool, and in the wrong hands, people have done bad things with it, right? Like, I mean, so we can understand where some people's apprehensions, especially those from older generations and things like that, but it goes so much further back than all of that too, right? So and when we can really dissect things this way, and we can really see it with a more unbiased viewpoint, right? And see the benefits of it. So and even while you were talking about the different archetypes, and it so sort of coming back from, as I sort of reflect on my education and how that connects, when you talk about trauma, right away, what triggers, or the thought that gets triggered there is trauma responses. That the right, and there's like the 4 different trauma response, or is it 4 or 5 now? I can't remember, because one of them wasn't part of the original, and then it more recently, which is fawn, I think, and that's where we get the behaviors of
the 4 Fs or 5 Fs now.
Right. you know, freeze, flight, fight, fawn, right? And stuff like that. And of course, there's all these different behaviors that fall under these sort of categories that, you know, we may respond to. And as you talk about the, you know, the subconscious sort of blending into with some aspects of the conscious, we don't realize that some of these behaviors get etched into, so we think it's instinct, but it's not necessarily instinct. It's what's the word I'm looking for? A convoluted version of your actual instinct, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Because of trauma, that gets stuck and stored, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to work through. And sometimes we need these tools to help us to see the bigger picture, because when we're in it and we're blended with our emotions, and you know, and as I do personally my current therapy, and I'm working with that,
Mm-hmm.
it's understanding that a lot of these cycles and patterns that we find ourselves in are because of things that we've endured. Now,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? So now if we you know, that's one half, and now if we combine it with, you know, just the general understanding of what it's of existence, right? Like being
Yeah.
a person, you know, there's so many different things and factors that can, you know, factor into that, and that
Yep.
can keep us stuck even for years and for generations, right? Because now it goes back to, there's a trauma response, but then and stuff like that, but then it turns into a behavior that may have stuck with us for generations, right? Because of learned behavior and whatever environments at that time.
That goes into also like neurobiology as well. When you have learned behavior, it goes into brain mapping. So like
Yes.
one thing that we need to learn in psychology is neurobiology. So we actually take neuro classes within psychology. So I've taken a few, and we've talked about how like the brain will map specific neurons and things when you, and then behavior then stays within your brain, right? So when you experience trauma, and like in terms of like generational trauma, when you cast that trauma on within your genes, it's actually gone through it genetically. I think my internet is bugging again.
Yeah, a little bit.
You actually you learn one thing and then you pass that on from generation to generation through the genes, and that's how learned behavior, and because of that it gets within your genes. One thing that we learn and within psychology and within neurobiology as well. And then the trauma response is saying, yes, it comes from the trauma response. Sure, it comes from instinct, but it also comes from your brain as well, in regards to the chemicals the brain is producing to experience those responses with fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and actually comes from the chemical as well. So it's also not only coming from your unconscious level, but on things you have experienced.
Okay, and it's also coming from your brain chemistry, because if you, that's all.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
you froze, and then I have no idea if you
Yes.
said anything further after that. So
No, so it comes from your brain chemistry as well, is all I said.
yeah, so and when we understand, right, like and this is the whole thing about understanding the secrets of the universe, right? It all lies within us, right? Like, because right, and the reason why it's divided the way that it is true for all our own safety and our protection. Can you imagine that if one person had all that knowledge, like that's like that's a super ego, and all it takes is probably one trauma, something to trigger catastrophic means well, isn't that where what we've been surviving in the last, I don't know, 3 years, whatever, like, right? Like global mental health is, okay, don't even get me started on that rabbit hole, but like, like this is the whole point why we're doing this, right? Like it's just, and so this is where, what I realize, I guess too, where for me, I guess as I start to look at what are my strengths and my weaknesses and things like that, and my place in this world, and based on everything that has happened and how everything has sort of played out to present, where not only just in my personal life, but even on a global scale, it's like, I have been, my unfortunate situation has left me with the sort of bittersweet ability to be stuck inside. And in some ways great, and in a lot of ways no, because it is very limiting, right? And that in itself has a whole other thing to it too. But like, but because of that, right, being stuck inside, it's either I could use that time wisely, or I can go crazy, and that does nothing for no one or me, right? Like, so I dove into education. I dove into what I know, and observation and things like that, and as I've done that, and rightfully so, I also say I'm a nerd, because, and I can honestly say that honestly, because I've dived into the word with the meaning, and trying to even go further back to, okay, well, where does the word itself stem from, and and all of that kind of thing, right? Like, fascinating, because I'm going back to further, right? And that's sort of what took me onto this whole tarot journey, to be like, discredit, well, because I come from a very sort of strict, Christian sort of upbringing, and and the persona of tarot being evil, bad, fortune telling, but there's so much more to it than that. There's so many things where we can discredit things, and then show the hypocrisy. Well, no, this is right. And
even though the tarot itself is actually rooted heavily in Christianity. Like, look at the major arcana, like the Lovers is literally Adam and Eve. Like the devil, sure, but
but that's
sure, but like the Temperance, an angel, Judgment,
exactly,
everything, it's all rooted in Christianity pretty much. So like people who say that it's evil, like, but it literally tells the story of the several stories within the Bible. So like, how is it evil?
Even my last, one of my more recent videos, where I showed you even Gustave Doré, like,
oh yes,
right, like, okay, so that blew me away when I saw the tarot. But then I learned, wait a second, he did what? He illustrated the Bible, right? So like, and so it's like I'm seeing all these hypocrisies within the history, that as I dive in, and my experience with social work, and right, and my basic knowledge of psychology, like, it goes so much deeper than what we on the surface, or what we've been led to believe. And if we can tap into these resources, these ancient resources, for good, not for evil, right, we can then start to make the necessary changes for actual healing, right? That we're using these to heal ourselves, and make that conscious choice that we need to heal. Because if we don't heal, what we do now will affect the next generation after that, just like our previous generations affected us, right? So it's to sort of miss that piece, that disconnect, is very unfortunate, because then we just end up repeating the same karmic cycles over and over again, right? Like, and what good has that done us so far? So, this is why, to me, like, this work is important, and being able to fully understand and do it lovingly and openly and honestly, is important, right? Like,
Yeah.
knowledge, my mom always said, knowledge is power, right? It is. But with power comes great responsibility,
Yeah.
and you have to.
Spider-Man.
With that,
Spider-Man. With power comes great responsibility. I'm sorry you said that, and I was like, it's Spider-Man.
you know what? See, and this is why we get along so well, because that is an inner child response, okay? That went off, and I'm surprised that I didn't catch on to that. Like,
that's literally what his uncle tells him in the car before he dies. In like the original with the Tobey Maguire.
You see, nerds, we get it, right?
Yeah.
Because as soon as you did that, my inner children were just bowled over, just like, right? The responsible adult in me had to take a back seat, because the children needed to come into that one, right? Like,
for sure.
So, but that also leads me down another rabbit hole. Thanks. See, I'm thanking your inner child for this one, okay? Because the whole idea of creativity and imagination, and if we can think it, it is possible. And like, I have found in this whole spiritual journey, awakening, whatever you want to call it, that I've been going through myself, there has been a lot of things, even from my childhood, that I remember, like even movies and things like that, things that even now I see, and I'm like, wait a second, they've been telling me that all along. Like, like, when I think about the idea of the movie Frozen, I think in another video I even talk about, I think more recently with the gentleman who wrote the stories with Hezi, and we were talking, because he comes from education, and the importance of instilling these important values in children to now do like that preventative measure, so we're not having these children grow up in toxic environments and then becoming these dysfunctional adults, like we were subject to, unfortunately, right? So like, but even I think he was talking about his connection to even Norse mythology and stuff like that. Okay. And I was like, Norse, you want to know about Norse mythology? Go watch Frozen. Like, right? Like, that was the thing. And it's like, but when I really start to pay attention now, and I start looking back at some of these movies, like when we talk about chakra work, right, and the understanding of chakras and how that all relates to the body, and now that, like, I will let you connect that to psychology as soon as I finish this point. But like, when I look at now, I can't look at the movie Trolls the same, because Trolls to me is all about chakras. It's the chakras. Like, if you were to
the color.
Yes. Yeah, right. And I'm like, it's totally a chakra movie. Like, to me, the first one is the discovery of like our different parts, like the self, right? And then to me, the second movie is basically the story of self-discovery, now realizing that we are all connected, because beyond the self, there's other selves and there's other universes all around. That's what it, in the second story, they sort of discover. And I think, have you seen it?
Trolls?
The second one.
No, I haven't watched them yet. I found both of them on Netflix. They're added to my wish list, but I haven't my watch list, but I haven't actually watched them yet.
Well, your inner children need to You're
Believe
in
me,
it
I
for
have to watch a
the
lot of things, so I haven't really made those movies a priority.
yeah. Well, I know life gets in the way,
Mm.
unfortunately, right? Like it, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, but the second one is it basically they suddenly discover, some past historical things that grandfather and whoever else kept
Hmm.
from them, and they're discovering now about the idea of music, and you know um you know there's different categories of music, and
Hmm.
where it all comes from, but we can combine them, and as we combine these elements, there's new sounds, there's whatever, but at the heart of it, even if you took away music altogether, it resides in it's part of who we are. And I
Hmm.
think at the final part of it, before the big charade and yay discovery, oh yeah, we're all connected, it they lose their colors. They suddenly lose their colors and everything is gray. But then music stops because of the strings that gave these things were destroyed. And but when you watch now and everything gets grim and colorless and dreary, um, and they stop and they're in silence, there's still sound that's beating, but it's coming from within. It's the sound of our own heartbeats, right?
Hmm.
And that's where sound and music originally originates from. It comes from within. We as people create that now, right? And we add our own juices, and that's the colors of the world, whatever, and
Hmm.
we create all these different things, and then when we mingle and co-mingle and co-create and whatever, we create new things. And that's the beauty of life, and how we evolve, and what love is all about, and why I can say I am love, and I talk about I'm love, and I give love, because
Yeah.
I I've done the work. I know that that's if we really break down that word, right? The, biologically,
Hmm.
that's how you get human beings, right? Like, I mean, even
Yeah.
the act of it and all of that stuff, if you will, right? But
Hmm.
even taking it a step back, like I think I was having a conversation with somebody else, and you having to actually, well, there's the concept, I think, was reminded, or I was reminded of it through my therapist, right? And
Okay.
we talk about the idea of our feelings and our instincts being children, and why I always talk about now, all of a sudden now it's like I embrace the idea of my inner children, right? And
Yeah.
and understanding it's not just an inner child, but inner children. And the
Hmm.
more trauma we've experienced, the more inner children we will have, because and the longer we've been alive too, right? Because
Yeah, for sure.
it gives you that being alive longer, you've lived longer to experience more things and more trauma or whatever. So, and when you don't deal with that, you're building up all these, right? You're all these triggers and traumas and whatever. And if we know the idea and the understanding a child's mind and stuff like that, it's
Hmm.
irrational, right? They're
Yeah.
all feeling um driven. So if we walk around, essentially, and we're with all these triggers and unhealed trauma, that's a
Hmm.
lot of children we are physically walking around with, the
Yeah.
elements of the child's mind we're walking around with, in our bodies. And so the idea of blending and what that's like when, right? Because our logical mind sort of disappears when we get triggered, because now we are just, it's all about the emotion,
Hmm.
right? And we can get lost in that. And so even in the present moment, we can view and misjudge, like this is now coming to, this is the other aspect of my experience with social work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We you know we may judge a current situation based off past experiences,
Yeah,
and
for
that
sure.
may not be accurate, right?
No.
And we can end up blowing things out of proportion because of and we don't realize if we don't check those, we can then potentially unintentionally and, with lack of awareness, be impacting and triggering other people and causing other traumas for other people and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's not just about the healing for ourselves, but the healing for the greater good, so that we're not going off now and creating problems for other people. Like, and I feel like that's especially too in even within COVID, the world has become very sort of selfish that way, that it's all about healing self. But you have to remember, we don't live in this world by ourselves. There's several different selves all around. So we have to be mindful of that. And that's where, to me, the importance of self-awareness comes in the grand scheme of things. Where that emotions, when we're blended, that gets lost, because it's all about survival of the fittest. But that's not how we're supposed to operate. That's not how it's, in the grand scheme of things, isn't how it really is supposed to be. So, how do we fix that? Well, it really isn't a responsibility for just one person. We have to take responsibilities for ourselves. And as we do that, and we become and create centeredness and wholeness once again, as we're a whole, we can co-create as whole people and bring a unified balance, if you will, right?
Yeah. So
that's like seeing the bigger picture. But a lot of the time too, again, because of the way society, is run, and nobody has time to sit down to really come to these rationales, right? Like the opportunity to have this expanded knowledge, it's not there. It doesn't, our society doesn't allow for that to happen. I just was unfortunate the way everything collapsed around me, that I was forced into it, unfortunately, right? Like, it was, and based on the choices I made, because I probably, with everything going on, I may not have been able to handle that, and I could have, right? A lot of people have, and the idea of suicide and why suicide is on the rise, and oh my God, like, that's, you know what I mean? So this is why, to me, this work is so important, and why I'm so passionate about it, and why I can't, I feel like I can't stop reiterating the importance of it, right? So, and so when I come across somebody who thinks like me, because it doesn't happen very often, I feel, right? And then just, nowadays, the way we all are, and, so I gravitate towards people who have that same mindset and can see the bigger picture and want to work, to help fix that, right? And I feel like we all have a sense of purpose. We all do. And that, to me, knowing that you had the knowledge of psychology and can explain that in a way that I know I can't, because I don't have that extensive knowledge, right? And so this is why this means so much to me, and because, as I say, I'm embodying the idea of love, right? The highest vibration. That's where we originate from. So as I'm doing that, and I know and fully embody and understand what it means, I can happily walk around and say to people, well, I love you, because I know why I'm saying that. And it's a very, very clear view, because there's different levels of that, and there's different, right? There's different aspects in certain categories. There's certain things we do to express, and depending on the person and the relationship, right? Exactly. So that's why, I guess I am the way that I am, if you will, and stuff like that. So, so now, you've really given us the history, and I've kind of thrown into me, you know, the combination of the social work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And of course, what are we really all here for? We're really all here for the tarot cards, aren't
Yeah.
we? Like,
tarot and oracle.
right? So like, but there's been, that's the other thing that has fascinated me too, even you know, as we're getting back into some of the historics of cartomancy and divination and stuff like that. You know, there even are some new decks that are even coming out that really, to me, sort of bridge that gap between psychology, social work, therapy, you know, into spirituality and divination, and where and how, why, to me, the whole thing is necessary for us to be whole too, right? So
Yeah.
what are some of your favorite decks? Let's start there. What are your favorite decks, and then we
Sure.
can get into other decks that maybe none of us have.
I actually wanted to make a note first before we get like to talk about, because you were talking before about chakras and colors
Yes.
and things like that, and I was thinking, because we don't really talk about chakras within psychology, but we do talk about color psychology. And I feel like that could relate on some level to chakras because of the colors. So I was actually thinking, and I didn't actually grab it, but I have a deck called the Prism Oracle, and it is literally based on colors. So they're all colored cards with like a, oh, I should have grabbed it. It's on the other side of my room. But
I think I know the deck because I think I have it too. It's a rainbow deck. Is it the one by Chronicle Books? And it has
yeah, it's from Chronicle Books. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So then I have the not readily accessible. So no, unfortunately.
Yeah, mine's on the other side too. But yeah, it's all to do with colors, has to do with color psychology and things like that. So that one's a good one in regards to like if you wanted to bring that aspect in, and like the keywords on that deck. I do have actually an unboxing of that on my channel if anyone wanted to check it out. But
I will definitely, all what we talk about, I will definitely have linked in the description box. So,
perfect. And I'll send you links also so you can add them in. But for that deck specifically, it got me thinking in regards to that specific color that's associated with a specific word. Specifically when it comes to shadow work and doing things with tarot and oracle, Wild Unknown Archetypes is probably my absolute go-to. This is by Kim Kranz. It's published by Harper One. I love this deck so much. It's one of my ultimate favorite decks ever. And
I love her collection. I actually have her whole collection.
Me too.
And then I got really excited when the minis started coming out.
Me too. And I have them all also.
In the tins. Okay, so yeah.
I hope that they do a mini of this one. It would be awesome. So awesome if they did. But but I really love this deck, and I love it specifically because it goes to the notion of like the archetypes and that notion that that Jung created with his archetypes and things like that, and it really goes into kind of area, but it goes into further detail with this specifically in regards to how it's structured with like the selves, the places, the tools, and then like the initiations. So I really like that because you can literally, if you wanted to, you could pull specifically the self that you want to work with specifically in like a shadow work way. And then when you do that, you can literally then work with like different places depending on like what it is you're trying to work through. So like the places have specific meanings to them, right? And then you have like the different tools for that specifically. So you could really use this as like a really interesting shadow work way to really dive deeper into the self that you want to work with in regards to like a place or like a tool that you might need to work with that specific self, which I really love. And then of course the guidebook is fantastic. It really gives you like the light side, the shadow side. It gives you even ways to go deeper into the card if you wanted to understand the card even more by actually looking up different things and reading up on other things that relate to the card itself. Like for example, poetry or songs or books or a bunch of different things of how she adds at the bottom here. She adds like a bunch of different aspects here on what you can
And on
do
the
to go
sides
deeper.
too.
Yeah, and on the sides
Yeah.
as well, she adds even more things and how they relate to other cards and things like that. So it's really, really interesting. I really love this deck so much in regards to that kind of aspect. And then she has like, you know, Kiss. We have the forest here as a place. We have the mother as an archetype. This is great if you want to work with the judge. We have Starborn. Like they're so great and they're very abstract because of the type of collage watercolor pen art that they are. So you really have to like really dive into the guidebook and really read with the guidebook and things like that, which I love doing. But I feel like a lot of her decks do that. So like her alchemy deck also does that. I like her, it's right behind me actually, the pocket animal spirit decks that she has, because they also do like a shadow light kind of aspect within the guidebook, which allows you to really go deeper into the card itself if you want to use animal archetypes instead. And then her tarot doesn't do the light dark thing, but the actual imagery on the tarot has very shadowy aspects within it. And then the pops of color, which is how I bring color psychology into my practice specifically. I use it specifically with this deck, the tarot deck, the Wild Unknown Tarot. Has the pops of color in like some of the cards. So like the Two of Swords, for example, the pop of color is in the sun. And then you have this is the wands, was this Six of Wands. The pop of color is only in the butterfly, right? I really like that aspect because it brings like a shadowy aspect to it while still bringing in some aspects of color. And some of the cards in here are pretty hard hitting, like especially in like the swords suit, I think. I'm trying to find one specifically. Not all of them, but some of them. Here's the 10 of Wands. No color whatsoever in this card. Right, but you see a bit of white, so there might not be color within, but there's still that white aspect, and I feel like the white aspect is where the light is coming from, and you should be going towards that light specifically.
And based on that card, even from what I see, like the previous one, that's the 10 of Wands, I think it was, right?
Yeah, the 10 of Wands,
yeah. And just how the branches are all sort of chaotic mingled in, that's the idea. And it's darkness, you see the light, but that's beyond. That's the idea of the struggle to get there. And it's the will, the intensity of will to get through all of that to there. It's going to be a challenge, right? Like,
for sure.
It's like, right, but you know, but as long as the will is there, you will get to the end of that, right? So
I would say it's also a matter of asking for help as well, because the 10 of Wands, if we think about the 10 of Wands, like the traditional 10 of Wands, someone that has all these wands on their back, right? And that means they're overburdening themselves. They're taking on too much responsibilities. They're taking on too much for themselves and not reaching out to others to split the load. Like split the load. So
exactly.
Sure, you should have will to get through it, right? Because you need will regardless. Like if you're going through whatever is going on here, you need the will to power through, right? But you should also have the will to reach out to someone to help you power through as well. So it's about also making sure that you get help from others. Here's another one that's pretty hard hitting. This is the Nine of Swords. This is the nightmare card, pretty much nightmare. So it's pretty gross. And then we have the 10 of Swords, which is another one that's pretty hard hitting.
Tragic, right? The idea, the sense of self and tragedy that, you know, you're at your wit's end, whether and the swords being thought, and then we already know thought and how and the influence it that sometimes
not only thought, it's also
swords,
about your mental state, right?
Yeah, but sometimes too, the Ten of Swords can be an illusion, right? It could be that we perceive that we're at the end, but we're not necessarily, because at the end is also from we begin again, right? Once we reach the end.
Yeah, all the tens are like that though. All the tens
Exactly.
are an end, but we're going to be beginning again, right? Because it's the end. Technically, it's the end of the suit, and then we go into the courts.
Exactly.
But if you didn't consider the courts, then that's the end of the suit. Number 10 is the last of that specific suit. But the tens in general are about endings and starting again and going back to the beginning, right? Going back to the ace. But if we talk about like the 10 of Swords the 10 of Swords is supposed to be pain. It's probably the most painful 10 out of all of them. That being then the 10 of Wands, I feel like, and then we have like the happier tens, which are the 10 of Cups and the 10 of Pentacles, right? Those are the happier ones. But yeah, the 10 of Swords is more painful, pain within like your mental, like your own mental and your own thought process. Sure, it could be the way you perceive things. So you may perceive that someone is betraying you, and that causes you pain because you're within your own mind. You're constantly within your own mind. But it could also be actual pain as well, like actual disappointment and actual loss. If we're thinking about the rest of like some of the other sword cards, or like for example the 3 of Swords, or if we link it to like the 5 of Cups, for example, there's that sense of loss or a sense of disappointment in that regard as well, just like the other ones, but more in like a mental state. But it's also supposed to represent how like you won't be in that state forever, that there's the opportunity to begin again, like you stated, begin again, and that would be the act of going back to the ace and beginning anew. So yeah.
So I did not, hold on, whoops, sorry, hold on. Okay, so just so you keep going, and just so I can charge my phone for a bit. But yeah, okay, so
that was another favorite, because you said you wanted to talk about favorites, but yeah. And then I think a last favorite in regards to like what I used for shadow work, probably my most favorite, since that's what it was created for. So these decks that I talked about, the Wild Unknown, I don't know if it's necessarily created for the shadow work process. That's what I use them specifically for. But the next deck I'm going to talk about, it was actually created for shadow work. That was the purpose and the intention of it, which was the Earth, Moon, and Shadow Oracle. This is by Serafina, and illustrated by Kat Amsel. Serafina is the owner of Ruin Vervain. This is an indie deck. The other ones are mass market. And I keep some of the things that I got with the deck. So I got this from Brittany. So Brittany actually kickstarted this deck, and then by mistake she received a second copy, and she gave me the second copy she received, because Serafina was like, "Oh, just keep it." So, which was really funny. And I found that really funny because Serafina actually reached out and she wanted to send me a copy of the deck for review, but I told her already that I was going to be getting one. So, which was pretty funny. It was like a funny situation. which I
Aw.
talked about in my video. But I love this deck so much. I think that the concept, they did like she did a great job with the concept and everything in regards to like the shadow work. And then we have here, okay, this one's really great. Poisons and toxins, keywords fear, negative thoughts, and self-loathing. Fantastic. Like, I love this deck so much. This deck is currently out of print, I believe. She will be doing a Kickstarter next year for the tarot, and the Oracle will be available, I believe, to purchase through the Kickstarter as well, like as an add-on or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think you may be able to get a bundle or something. I don't remember what the details were exactly, but I know she said that you should be able to get this through the Kickstarter when she does the tarot, because they're doing a tarot also. But I love this deck. I use it a lot. It feels really work based. There's a lot of great information, a lot of great keywords. I love using this, getting some shadow work messages for things to work on, and which I really love. It looks like there's gonna
There's
portal hidden
that looks like a portal.
and self-mastery as the keywords. So yeah, I really love it. And then we have with duality but flow. So it gives you that light aspect and the shadow aspect. Okay, I'm not going to show this one because of nudity. And yeah, it just really taps into that kind of shadow work energy, but also in terms of like generational things. It taps into that like trauma. It taps into things that you would see in shadow work, especially like different acts of like archetype. We have karmic with troubles, a lot of depth, with different quotes. So for here, Sacred Mountain, there's a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Then we have like a bunch of different information about the card. There's like a quote for every single card here. And then it goes into a lot of depth. There's some like history in here. Like, for example, Death Valley. It tells you that it's a desert in California, that there was like a gold rush in 1949, and a bunch of different things. So it goes into a lot of different aspects, which I really love in that regard. And it really taps into the keywords as well. For example, this one talks about like the fact that it's a desert. So for the Death Valley, the imagery is a desert, and it talks about like the desert, there are seasons in our life that feel void of love and joy, with no visible opportunities in sight, leaving us to dwell in the seemingly vast emptiness. The Death Valley card reminds us to take a hint from our nomadic ancestors. We must be resourceful and apply our incredible powers of adaptation to the challenges before us, is one aspect of that as well. But it also talks about like hidden in plain sight in regards to abundance of resources available to us to sustain us, which makes sense because the deserts, there's not that many. Like, you would think that there's not really a lot of resources to sustain you in the desert, but technically they're just hidden in plain sight, right? If we think about cacti, for example, plenty of resources in cacti, right? So there's like the aspect of like needing to take time, pause, and just like be still without like the fear, the doubt, the judgment, and just let those things go in that regard with the Death Valley. So I like the guidebook is fantastic. There's also a lot of shadow work spreads in the book. She has the spreads, but she also has cards specifically for them as well if you didn't want to take the book with you. It's very this deck is very travel friendly in my opinion. So we have
wanted
like
that deck. I actually during the Kickstarter, I I did back it, but then based on the timing and finances and stuff like that, I had to unfortunately drop out of it. But that's still something that is on my list of things that I would definitely want to work with.
Yeah. Well, there's always next year. They are coming back with the Kickstarter next year. When next year, I don't know, but I know that she's already stated in 2024. They're doing a Kickstarter for the tarot, and then you'll be able to get the Oracle during that time as well. From what she said, from what she's stated on her Instagram. And then there was one last deck that I wanted to talk about. It's not really a favorite in my opinion, but it is a great deck if you wanted to do shadow work with like your inner child. But this is like really dark, like inner child kind of deck. You typically, when I do like to do inner child, I like a deck that's a little bit more playful and fun. I don't really like the dark kind of stuff vibe. That's not really me specifically. So I usually do my Kawaii Tarot, which I love. It's little chubby little animals, and I love it so I love it so much.
Do you have the Playful Heart Tarot?
No, I don't. That's an indie deck, right?
Yeah, but it is. It's my Hidden Chops. Oh my god, that deck you would absolutely love.
I've seen it. It's really cute. But no, I don't own it. I don't own that many indie decks. So.
And she's another one coming out called Pip Speaks. So it's supposed to be a Marcel type of deck.
Okay.
Yeah, that she's currently working on it, and I think soon, sometime this year, I think she's probably gonna do the Kickstarter for it. So I'm really excited about that. Her decks are really a lot of color, a lot of and as much as I really do appreciate some of the darker tones and even monochrome and stuff like that. I love color. I can come on. Trolls is one of my favorite movies. So I love color, absolutely, right? So there's a lot of that. So what is your favorite? Like, what is this last one there? And then I will go into because some of the decks that I actually have that I'm going to talk about are not as dark as the ones that you showed. They're more the lighter side of things that I would say, is, still shadow work, but like not dreary shadow work, if you will.
Yeah. So I prefer the Wild Unknown series specifically for shadow work. I feel like it's better to get into like more of that unconscious, and when I think of the shadow, I think more of the dark side of the unconscious, like I talked about earlier with the young. So this is the Nicoletta Ciccole Tarot. This one's really weird. But I feel like it really goes into that inner child, but like the darker side of like inner child work.
Especially for those that may have like darker childhood traumas and things like that. Yeah.
Though I would say, like, if someone had like more traumatic experiences from childhood, I would say that therapy would probably be the best place, and not just do tarot. But
and actually, even just to take a pause there, none of what I would say we're talking about, even as we talk about tarot, it's not at all the idea to replace professional help.
No, not at all.
It's about
actually never recommend that.
Yes, it's how we can enhance, and especially when we are going through a global mental health crisis, and even resources are scarce, things that we can be doing in the meantime to aid us, but not replace, right? So absolutely.
I usually recommend in that regard, like, you can't afford therapy, find community resources. Like even if you're based in like the US, and I know US, you need to have insurance and things like that, but if you actually find local community resources, a lot of the time, the people at local community resources, like, like a community center or things like that, a lot of the time they'll know free or sliding scale resources to recommend within the area, which is great because sliding resource, like free service is fantastic, but sliding resources, these are usually based on income. So if you don't have much of an income, they might actually slide the scale where it's like not as great as like an actual private therapist, for example, which is very expensive per hour. And I recommend that a lot because of the fact that I have a degree in social service. I did one of my internships at a crisis hotline. Hotlines are great too if you want to talk to people. Obviously they can't give you advice, and they're going to be there just to listen. So if you're only looking for someone to listen through something that you're going through, highly recommend hotlines because they're free to call. And community resources are fantastic. You can find those usually online, local community resources near me, and then you'll get like a bunch, and you could just show up and ask them to help you find resources if you need it. Other things would be like your school, for example. A lot of the times, like if you're going to school, you can have guidance counselors at your school, or you might
Mhm.
have resources that you can access that are part of your education, which are free to you. If you go to school, they're free to you, right?
Mhm.
So those are great resources also to look at if you can't afford a therapist. On that side, a lot of the time, you'll be able to be recommended to resources like that. So that's usually what I recommend to people. But this deck here is a really weird. It's definitely goes into the darker side of childhood, but I do like it. Like it was on and off my list for a very long time, and I decided to pull the trigger after I watched Lisa Pappas's walkthrough of it. She did the walkthrough, I think, of both the tarot and the oracle together. I can't remember, but she
Mhm.
talked about it, and I ended up really liking it, so I picked it up. And it's definitely a strange one but it has a lot of nuances within it that, like, look at this, is like built blocks, like children's blocks, and then you have like the princess stuck at the top, and it really reminds me of like Rapunzel, for example. So you have those nuances within it, which I find are great for inner child work in that sense. But again, this is a bit darker. Like she's eating this lollipop, and the lollipop has a face on it and it's bleeding. It's
Oh my
very
God.
strange.
And you know
So
what's funny? That deck I've seen around for a while. I've even had dreams about it that I went shopping looking for it. And I know, I kid you not, okay? This is how I kid you not. I must have woken up at like, I dreamt about it, and this is a while back actually,
mhm.
a little while ago. And I woke up at maybe 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, dreaming that I was in a store looking to buy whatever, okay, and the whole collection, but I could only find pieces. What does Lana do? And Lana wakes up at 3 a.m. after she just vividly dreamt about shopping for it, and then rolls over to her phone to go.
Shopping for it.
I did not buy it though. I did not buy it, but
That's such a mood.
I was
3 a.m. shopping.
I was online looking for it because for some reason I'm like, I woke up dreaming, so like, and it was totally fresh in my. But I don't even think I realized what I was doing until after. Like I think I woke, like I must, like I went back to sleep, and then I probably, when I woke up again, and then
Yeah.
I'm sort of recalling things that occurred during the night, and I'm like, wait a second, did I? No. And then I'll like, right, like I'm like, no, I didn't do that. And then after I really think about it, I'm like, yeah, Alana, you did. You woke up and from a dream to go shopping online because you dreamt that you
Well,
were
you could
shopping.
have always just checked your Amazon and checked to make sure that you didn't actually
No,
order
I
it.
did, and that's why I know I didn't actually actually buy it because I still don't have the deck, right? It's still on my wish list of things to get,
Yeah.
but
So that was the Nicola Chicola. There's also an Oracle, but I don't have the Oracle. The Oracle is just way too weird. I don't know if I would buy it, but I
and
do
then
like
there's the mini deck now too.
the mini tarot. Yes, that one is cute. I wouldn't mind getting that also. It's like pocket size. You can travel with it and things. But though this is pretty travel friendly in my opinion. It's in a tuck box, so like it's not that large where it'll take up that much space. But
Yeah.
if you have like small hands and normal and because this is regular tarot size, so if you have like small hands and you can't shuffle regular tarot size cards, I would say that probably the mini would probably be better. But
Yeah. And then that's also consumerism at its finest, because there are nerds and people like me who would like, but it's mini and it's cute. I may already have it, but I still want it because okay.
yeah, I love mini decks. They're the best.
That's
Oh, there was
the,
one
the
more
wild
deck.
the wild unknown.
Oh yes, but I have that because I love Kim Kran, so I needed that for
But that's
mine.
what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying, because I'm the same way. I have the large deck already. But
Yeah.
did I get the mini ones? Yes, I did.
I also have the mini of the that have the pocket animal spirits with the full size right next to it behind me.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
one last deck this is actually a newer deck, but I just wanted to mention it quickly. It's Mood Crystals. So this is a newer deck that I brought into my collection, but I really like it. So if you're someone who just wants to work with emotions and specific moods, I highly recommend this, to be honest with you. I really like it because if you're into crystal work and things like that, this is great. Though I don't own that many crystals, to be honest with you, so I like this to work with a crystal oracle deck, and I have a few. So I like pairing this with like a crystal oracle deck and working with the crystals that way in regards to emotions. But this is great for like emotions. There's also another deck. It's an emotion deck, but I'll mention it after. I have to find it, but this one's great. I actually just recently got the book for it. The publisher sent me the book to review, so I'm excited to see if there's like a difference between the book and the cards, if it goes into more depth or what it is. But I actually really like this, just to put it out there also.
Yeah, and you have a walkthrough, which I'm definitely gonna of that deck actually that I'll
Yes,
be
yes.
posting. And I saw the walkthrough, and then yeah, my minions were like, while you were talking, they wanted, yeah, we saw the walkthrough and it's really cool. And anyways, and then we want to also say, but we feel like there's also, because that box, that deck, that
Mhm.
the deck box looks
Yeah.
very familiar. And I did, after I watched your video and I went looking, and I'm like, why do I feel like I've seen something similar to that? And I
Mhm.
think by the same company that made that, they actually have a deck called Self Care.
They have a deck? No, they only have two other decks. I have them both. I received them for review. I don't think they have anything for
Okay, so
self-care.
maybe it's not by the same publisher, but there's another deck box that has a similar sort of outlook like
Okay.
that.
Mhm.
I will definitely, in editing, we'll find it and put it up on the screen, because I don't have that either. But the box looks very similar, sort of watercolory, but it's white and blue with a little bit of turquoise, and it's got that same, like, you see how like there's like the diamond square kind of
Oh,
shape
yes.
around.
Okay, I found it. I found the deck. And this is by Mandala Publishing.
Which one?
The self-care, I found it. It's called Self-Care Inspirational Card Deck and Guidebook. It's by Caitlin Scholl.
Okay, so that's the one that I said looks, and it does look similar. The box does look similar, right?
Yeah, the box
On the outside. Like
yeah, it has the same like metric shape.
yes.
but it's not the same specifically. It
But
just
it's
has
not
like
the
that
same
same metric shape in
but
here.
it's not the same publisher.
No, it's not.
Okay, so
Because
that
this publisher currently only has 3 decks. They have 2 others coming out this year, but they only have 3 decks currently in their catalog.
okay.
This one and then 2 others. The 2
Okay.
others are their Witch's Year, which is the Wheel of the Year deck, and then 50 Plants That Heal. And I received those also. They sent them to me for review.
Okay.
But they don't have anything self-care related.
Okay. But
Yeah.
but you did find the self-care one that I said looks similar. That
Yes,
yeah.
actually, Mandala Publishing has quite a number of decks. They have self-care, they have gratitude. I think they have some other things as well in their collection. These are just like affirmation cards, I
Mhm.
believe. But I can send you the link also.
Yes, please. And okay, so then what was I gonna say? I totally
I
forgot.
think you were going to talk about the self-care deck, I think.
Yeah, that
Did you-
was the one that I was saying that was a lot like that. And then no, because I did see that one, and that one, the one that you would just hold up, the mood
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, the mood
And,
crystal.
yeah, and I saw that one, and I had, because of you, have put that on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually lucky. I saw it on sale. It was only like $8, I think, Canadian, during the holidays. It was on sale during the holidays, and I got it in the beginning of January, because they were obviously Amazon was off and stuff for the holidays and things. So I bought it at the end of December and ended up only getting it in the beginning of January. But I bought it for like $10, and I was actually really surprised because this deck is originally, I think, $25.99 Canadian. So that was a pretty good deal in my opinion. But
And you've been enjoying that deck so far since you had it?
yeah, I have been enjoying it. I've been using it for my divination journal, but I really like the information that's on the card. They talk about like what it is. This one's discouraged, and it talks about like the emotion, and then in the back it talks about like different crystals you can actually work with this emotion with, which I think is really cool. And if you're someone who really likes crystals and has a lot of crystals in your collection, I think that's fantastic. But if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of crystals, but you're really into Oracle, I love working with this specifically with the Oracle, like a crystal Oracle deck. And there's so many crystal Oracle decks on the market. So yeah. But I really like this. I find it really, it's laid out really nicely, which is really nice. And I like how there's both negative scene emotions and positive emotions too. It's not just all positive. There's a nice balance, which is really good in my opinion.
That's awesome. So I really like those. So some of the decks, like I'll pull a few of even what I have currently and that I'm working with, but I'll start with some of the decks that are in my collection that are on my wish list and stuff. So one is well, I technically already have this deck, but I have the indie version, which is This Might Hurt Tarot.
Oh yes. I can't wait to get that. I'm actually getting it. I pre-ordered it a few months ago, and it should be here. I'm assuming next week, but I don't know, Amazon sometimes. But I'm excited to get that.
Yeah, so that I'm really, like I said, I already have the indie version, but what I'm really excited about is the limited edition.
Oh yes.
Right, because the thing is, the limited edition has the Oracle deck that is specific, and it's one of those sort of bittersweet things, because I really like the limited edition set. It looks really cool. And then even with that, with the I think it's called This Might Heal is the name of
This Might Heal. Yeah. This Might Hurt is the tarot, and then This Might Heal is the Oracle.
Yeah. So I really want that. But the unfortunate downfall with that, when I did look, because it was available on the 25th to get directly.
Yeah, you can still get it. It's still available, I think, on their website. The limited edition stuff from Liminal 11 you can only buy from them.
Yeah, but it is hefty, and us being Canadian, I did look into it because I was like, oh yeah, I really wanted it. And then by the time when I was about to check out and I looked and I was like, with the exchange and everything and shipping,
There's no
you know,
shipping. It's free shipping, no?
uh,
They kept advertising that it was free global shipping when they were talking about it.
I
So
don't remember. I have to double check, but anyways, all in all, with the exchange, it was still gonna be 200 and something dollars.
oh my God, how much is it in pounds?
One, I think it's one something. I can't remember
My God,
exactly.
that's expensive.
So yeah. So I was like, yeah, okay, well, no, that well, but I want it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah, I would
can't
never
afford
be
it.
able to
Like,
justify spending over $100, even
right?
if it's two decks. That's like
Yeah. So
a
now,
lot.
and even now, as you know, with all this psychology, talk, and just from what you started at the beginning, I'm thinking my super ego
Your
versus
super ego is no, and your inner child, your id is like, I want it.
so somewhere in the ego, the middle part, I'm like, well, how am I gonna make this happen? I'm like, I cannot justify 200 and something dollars for, you know. So, and then I started thinking, but well, how else? Because it's only from there. And I'm like, but I'm not a reviewer, so they're not going to send it to me for free. And I'm just like, but I was like, but this is like right up my alley. Like this is what I stand for. I need this deck in my collection. So anyways.
Yeah.
So
You could always try it and email them and just write a good proposal as to why they write a good proposal to like convince them to send it to you, if you really wanted to review it on your channel.
well,
Liminal 11 is pretty nice. Like they're really nice people. Like
yeah, I doubt that I would get that at this moment. I can't see the likelihood of that happening
yeah.
now, but it is something that of course I am wishing for in the future, but like it's so, but anyway, but that's one of the decks. The next one, that again is something that actually, Jillian Seawald, who's also
I know, my God.
Canadian.
That collection is gorgeous. Wait, she's Canadian? So what is her deck shipping from Canada?
Yeah, she's in Vancouver.
Oh, I didn't
She's
even
a
know. I
North.
thought she was based in the US.
No, she's Canadian. She's a Canadian sister there. Yeah, and she did the Naked Heart.
Yeah, which is right there.
Yeah, among other things. So for me, the Naked Heart, I'm not working with it right now, but that's definitely I would say my top things for especially shadow work and even
Okay.
just love and
I
heart.
use it for spiritual work. I find the guidebook is way more spiritual than shadow side for me personally. So
Yeah,
spiritual work is what I love using it for.
but I feel like for me, I feel like yes, it is very spiritual, but I feel like it has shadowy components to really
Mm,
think about for
okay.
the spirit aspect, right? So like,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
and that's where I feel like, yeah, because shadow work, it's not just about the physical too. I feel like shadow in regard to the intent and understanding like the ego and where,
Hmm.
like all that stuff too. So, but anyway, yeah, so that's, and then so her Familiar's Way deck collection is what I totally excited, and it's supposed to be, I believe,
It's next
May,
week, no? May 9th?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
So
So
next week.
yeah, so yeah, so we're all excited for that one.
Yeah. That actually that collection looks really good. I know that it's probably going to be too expensive. So I'm hoping that like her other 2 decks, because I was able to get this from Amazon. It was still indie priced, but Amazon took care of the shipping. So I'm hoping that maybe eventually that collection will also be available on like her storefront or something, and I'll be able to get it, and then Amazon would cover, then I would get free shipping with Amazon, obviously.
Yeah.
Because shipping is always what kills the the price
Yeah.
of everything, because shipping is so expensive.
Yeah.
So, but
But
I do really love,
but
love it.
but the fact that she's Canadian, that might be a thing, and it's shipping
It'll
from
probably
Canada.
be $20 Canadian.
Yeah.
But how much
Hopefully.
is the 3 decks? I have no idea. I'm
Oh,
gonna have to look at her Kickstarter to see the pricing
exactly.
for that, but
Exactly. So
I
that's
don't
it.
know.
That's what I'm waiting on. And there's and then another one which I don't yet have in my collection that is very and this is more of a very psychology sort of based
Okay.
sort of program of cards. And the set comes with like a journal as well, a workbook, and
Wow.
so Dr. Ebony online, she has a set of cards geared towards the teen. I forget what it's called, but I'll definitely have it on the screen and linked in the description. But it's very therapeutic to enhance therapy, the work we do in therapy at home. There's one geared for men, one geared for women, one geared for like like children, teens, whatever. And then
Interesting.
there's
Okay.
yeah. So, and I really like that. And I think the added bonus too with that is she also has a curriculum that she has implemented. So for those who are counselors and want to implement that as part of their therapy work, like when they're doing that with clients, they can it's totally usable that way too. But it's also, but the way it's created, you can also at home to enhance your own work with yourself for independent study, right? So I really like that. And then there is, okay, so let me, because I'm gonna have to.
That's fine.
Yeah. So as I was saying, there's a few other decks that these more so take on they come from a very sort of love based approach thing. And so one of them first is and I'll of course explain why I think of it the way that I do, because these decks are not really so dark. These are like, again, when I'm saying, right, the thing, but one of them is the True Love Oracle. This is a mass market Rockpool Publishing a deck. And
this is their new edition of it, because they had a different edition previously.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So their previous edition was actually in their bigger box. So
oh, okay.
Do I have it here? No, I don't. You know their dream reading cards?
Yes. Okay.
So
Now
they had that in that format with like really large cards and things like that. And this is their newer edition that they've put on their new cardstock and smaller, like more Oracle size standard, with a smaller book. This one.
Okay, so that
you can still get it, I think.
Yeah, I think it is still available, but
yeah, it's still available.
Yeah, but why I really like this is because it's so basically it's the idea of true love, and a lot of the time we seek the ideal relationship or whatever, but then there are things that can be blocking us from achieving some of these goals, right? And so one of the things and why I really like that is here we have things like understanding 35, which is worthiness, and then of course the book. Why I always love a really good guidebook is because it's what's written in the guidebook really enhance the meaning behind the work, right? And so the understanding of worthiness, we, you know, so, sometimes, you know, when we have trauma and stuff like that, we have a very distorted view on love and what, you know, what we deserve and things like that. So,
Yeah.
you know, this card comes in as a reminder that, you know, we are all worthy of love and done the right way, right? And remembering that. And then,
Yeah.
of course, the next card, number 9, which is the distorted feminine. So, you know, and then gives you, in the book, has examples on what is the distorted feminine, and, you know, that kind of idea, what creates that, you know. And again, it goes back into trauma, right? And you know, and stuff like that.
I feel like that
So,
could also be an archetype. The
yeah,
distorted feminine, that
it
could
has a
also be an
little bit,
archetype.
it has a little bit of, yeah, those different elements too. And then we have the rainbow reviver. And, you know, the idea of that, you know, just needing a reminder that we all, again, deserving of love. So, you know, how to give. And then there's even some of them have in the book, some of them even have, okay, so for example, the divine feminine. The divine feminine is the fundamental form of abundance. And then here it talks about reintegrating your divine feminine. And then there's like requirements, and there's like a whole exercise on how to do that, right? Like
Nice.
and stuff like that. So that's also why I like this. And then the other part is now understanding that, well, the self-love oracle, right? And this one's by Janet Twee, if I'm pronouncing that right, I hope.
I've never seen this deck.
So this is the indie version of this deck. They did make it mass market, and the box is slightly bigger with like a cardboard insert on the inside. I hate when they do that.
I'm gonna look it up. Self-love.
The self-love oracle. There's actually 2 different self-love oracles.
I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's more. There's way more than 2.
Right. I know.
I was looking specifically for this one.
Yeah. No, but I meant called.
Who published this? Beyond Words. Beyond Words. I don't know them.
Which one? Oh,
the publisher of the that deck that went mass market.
Oh, yes. No,
I don't know this publisher.
I never heard of them either.
Beyond Words. No, I've heard of them before, but I don't own any decks that they have. So I don't know what the cardstock is like and whatnot.
So it is a glossy cardstock.
Yeah, I would assume the mass market is the same, probably.
Yeah, and they are gilded. Now, some people may or may not like this this deck because they do fluctuate with the orientation of the cards. So like there's it like this.
Oh, landscape and portrait. Yes. Oh, I hate that.
Yeah. Right?
I already don't like it. I'm like, nope.
But the thing is, you know, and I'm kind of like that too, but sometimes I have to weigh it because it's the value of what is the, you know, what you're getting from the deck as opposed to, you know, right. So,
but I guess it would also depend on how many portrait versus landscape cards there are too. Like if it's equal, then I can just split it into 2 decks and just use them separately. But like, I don't know. But I'm not really into the art specifically for me, so this is probably not one that I would add to my.
Yeah, but what I really like about it is definitely what is written on it, right?
Okay, so the messages.
Yeah, the messages, right? Because here we have remembering your purpose, 44, you know, and I really like what it says here. We came to learn about love. We came to learn how to love all that is, and this includes ourselves. With this love, self-mastery and conscious co-creation become possible. Heaven resides in your heart. Now build it on earth.
Yeah, the message is good.
So, and then we have conquer fear, use discernment, and then and write, journaling and the importance of that, and recording our thoughts and messages and things like that. So, so that's another deck that I really like, for that reason. And more recently, is the Black Tarot that I have acquired because of you.
Good.
And I'm sorry. And this is one of I feel like the best purchases that
right. I know
that I had. Yeah, in a long time. Just even it blew me away the way that even the guidebook is even laid out.
Oh, the guidebook is fantastic.
Yeah, right.
Naisha did a fantastic job.
Yes, and just even like every time I go, and I was using it last night, and even as I'm using it, I'm like, like I just opened the book to the High Priestess, but it gives you the traits, right? It gives you a card description, and then it has questions for you to percolate on. What, when you're doing journaling and stuff, right? So what do you need to allow yourself to feel rather than think about, right? So things like that, right? Very thought provoking. The chakras that it's associated with, how to align, when you're in balance, when you're not in balance, like right, the yin and yang, and so it's so right. So then, of course, then that, and then when you and Brittany decided to do the Trickster Tarot, well,
yeah.
Did I pick that one up? Yeah, that one's there too. I haven't used that one yet, so I won't even speak to that. But it's there. I can't wait to see how that coincides with the Black Tarot.
Yeah.
So
Running Press always does a great job with their decks, to be honest with you. I really like their quality. So
yeah, I've
good that you picked them up
so far. I have been impressed. Yes, and yes, and definitely because of you, Faith. So
yeah. Hey, did you pick up the other deck? I think we mentioned it briefly. It's called the Golden Mantras Oracle.
Not yet. It's on the one. Yeah, it's one that I want to get. I think when I was looking at it, it wasn't quite out yet. So that's also.
No, it just came out last week.
Yeah. So with Amazon, it wasn't available yet for me to get, but it's definitely on my thing.
Yeah, that's from a Black creator also.
Yeah, and so then the one that for me is speaks to who I am, even as a person, that one of the very first decks that I feel like is a total staple, and it's more so because it's more so about about the content in the guidebook than it is about the imagery for me. And that is Star Layden's What Would Love Do? And it comes
I don't know that deck.
It comes in this box. So the box kind of does, right now I'm using it like that, but it goes right, and then it folds, and so it does.
Is this a mass market deck or indie?
No, this is an indie deck, and it is available on Etsy.
You can literally display your card in there.
Yeah, so
that's cool.
Yeah, and the
I like that box.
I love the box. And it comes with this chunky, very chunky guidebook.
Oh, love me a thick guidebook.
Right? So yeah, so you have you have the cards, and the cards are like this. They look like this. Let's say this one is courage, and it's just really different hearts. And then there's a message on the bottom. So this one, courage, is doing what's right in face of fear, and that's 19. But just to give you an idea of how comprehensive this book is.
Yeah, it's an affirmation deck.
Yeah, right. But courage, and then it has it written out. But then how to, excuse me, the whole concept of this deck is how to live and lead a life of love, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so it's broken up. So it has courage, and then courage is the antidote. Courage is the antidote to fearlessness, faint-heartedness, disempowerment, anxiety, panic, discouragement, dismay, intimidation, et cetera, et cetera. And then what would love do? Practice with your thoughts, and then pointers on that. Practice with your words, examples on that. Practice with your deeds, a dedication, and then affirmations.
That's
so
good.
Yeah, so that's one, another really a book that I really like to, when it comes to, checking ourselves and and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, like those so far, and there's so much more that like the decks, and this is why I was even saying, like, even preparing for this, I was like going nuts, because I was like, but there's so many decks, so what would this one, that one, and
I know.
I'm like, if I let my inner children take over, this video would be like 5 hours long. Like, there's no way.
Nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. But I could talk about decks all day, honestly.
Right? Exactly. But for the sake of timing and stuff like that, and watchability, but yeah, so this is I'm really happy and really excited that you agreed to do this, and that we just doing it together. I feel like other than some of the little mishaps with the internet, I mean, we are in Mercury retrograde. Not that I can charge my phone in the midst of it, but like, still, even with those things aside, like, this is exactly the kind of thing that I wanted to achieve in this video, and I feel like we did that, and it's thanks to you, because you've even in the midst of doing all this have shed some light on some things that I didn't even know, because I didn't study psychology. I studied social work, right? So but even in social work, there are certain things and elements that we do learn that is from other places, but
I know.
we don't get into the depth. So having that depth of knowledge coming from someone who actually studied that and can help build that bridge and connection between tarot and the work we're doing, and how we can manage ourselves better. There's only good things that can come from something like that, right? So and if when we can come together like-minded and be able to teach each other and help one another be better people, why not do that, right? The world is already selfish enough as it is.
True.
And and if we have any sort of chance on survival, we have to work together. So that's really, to me, at the end of the day, and isn't that what love really is all about at the end of it all? Like, the simplicity, you remove yourself from everything, all the chaos, and you draw back, and you're like, that's the point. That's love is the point of it all. So and that's why, like I said, this is why this means so much to me, why the work that I've devoted my career to doing, the very sense that I feel like why I live my life. It all comes down to this. And you know, and I wish more of us would see that and embrace that for the greater good of us all, right? So
Yeah.
I definitely want to thank you for taking the time to do this with me today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You know how much that means to me, and I right, like I do the best that I can to express that to you every day.
Yeah.
So, you know, and
Hey,
just
we
to
can
do that
definitely
for
do this
everyone.
again. I'm always
Yes,
open
yes.
to do things like this. It's fun.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? And even just as, you know, we were talking, and of course other things are coming to my mind, and I'm thinking, you know what? A video with her and me would be so much fun. Like, that's like that's like, these are the things I'm thinking about while we're doing this.
Yeah,
Okay?
that
Like,
would be fun. I love Brittany. She's great.
right? And she still hasn't done that short yet from your
No, but she's so busy right now. Like she's like crazy busy right now with her schedule. So
I
she
can
probably has
only
no time.
imagine, right? Like, so, but it was honestly that moment with you guys on your live with my name was hilarious.
I know. I was like reading it. I was trying to like say it in my head, and I'm like, banana. Wait, what? Alana, banana. No. Yeah. Wait, is that? So like it was literally like math going for it. I'm pretty sure Brittany was trying to do the same thing, and we were just sitting there in like silence, and I'm like, wait, what?
And me and my inner children are watching you guys, and we're just like,
It's so funny. We were trying to process, and it just wasn't processing. Because I was like, banana, Alana, banana. Wait, is that right? Like, I'm like thinking in my head. Oh my God, it's too funny.
oh my God, yeah. But
And I still
anyway,
always do it. And ever since that day, I'm like, every time I'm like thinking, I'm like, okay, it's banana. Alana, Alana banana, Alana banana. I'm like constantly doing that because I constantly screw it up all the time. And I constantly want to say Alana instead of Alana all the time. And I have to constantly tell
you're
myself
not
banana. It's
but you're
banana.
not the only one. And the thing is, our American counterparts always pronounce it that way, right?
That's
Like
probably why.
growing up, I have a lot of cousins and family that are in the States too, and
Okay.
they've always pronounced Alana. I'm like, no, it's Alana.
Alana.
Like banana bread. Alana.
I know.
How do you not that difficult?
So every time I'm like thinking, I'm like, it's banana, it's banana, it's banana. All the time.
Anyways, but you
Too
see,
funny though.
yeah. See, our inner children, they just they get along so well.
Yeah.
So, you know, anyways, and when you find people like that, you have to hang on to them because
Yeah, for sure.
it's so thank you so much. Thank you for joining me on my channel
You're
today and
welcome.
doing
Thank you for
this
having me.
with me. You know, and until, you know, we talk again and I get to, you know, share with everybody, all 116, I think is what I'm at right now, you know, of people
Well,
who have,
I'll be sharing it with my 900 whatever people, so we'll be good.
thank you. You're well, you know, and you're almost there. Like, I'm watching your
I know.
numbers.
I'm very close to being monetized, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and I can't wait for that when that finally happens for you. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I've been thinking about the plans and things and what I want to do, and because there a lot of things open up when you get monetized, right? A lot of things. You have a lot of opportunities that open up once you get monetized. So with YouTube, so I'm like sort of thinking of what I want to be doing once that happens, but yeah.
but that's exciting stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, but yeah, you're amazing. I can't wait to see what more comes from you. And, you know, you've taken up permanent residence in a corner of my heart. So
Oh, that's so nice.
And it's well, not even in a corner because it's free roaming in there because my heart is pretty space is a pretty big space and
Whatever, I'm okay with a corner. It's fine with me. Like, it's all okay. It's all good. A corner roaming. What? Honestly, just the notion is very nice. It's very lovely. Thank you very much.
so
And also, you're also awesome. Okay. And I'm really
thank you.
excited to see the stuff that you also bring out on your channel, because I do love your videos and the concepts and the things that you talk about. A lot of the things that you talk about need to be talked about. So I really love that. I really love that.
And thank you. I mean, I know it's not a lot of it, you know, isn't as popular. Like everybody's into tarot now, and everybody wants to see tarot, and you know. But yeah, and that's great, and I'm all for that too. Trust me, all my pages are definitely for that. But
Yeah.
we, you know, at the same time, we do realize that with the world crumbling the way it is, there's right. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, but anyway, but thank you. And until next time, and I see you again, don't forget to live, listen, and learn. I love you. I am love. So are you. Take care of
And
yourself.
so are you.
And each other.
Exactly. 100%.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. No matter what people want.